At the beginning of the movie, we see a mailman walking up to the house of an elderly man named Kair to deliver his letter. He reaches the door and knocks, but no one answers. Then he peeks through the window and sees a shadow moving inside. Thinking it might be Mr. Care, he waits. Suddenly, the door creaks open all by itself. The mailman, apparently never having seen a single horror movie in his life, walks right in. Bold move for someone whose job is to deliver mail, not audition for Ghost Hunters, Clueless Edition. Inside, he finds Mr. Care acting completely bizarre. Out of nowhere, black goo starts pouring from his nose, and then, brace yourself, he vomits insects. The mailman freaks out, as any sane human would. But in the next moment, Mr. Care vanishes into thin air. Suddenly, the mailman hears a noise coming from the bedroom. When he goes in to check, he finds Mr. Care hanging there. Shocked beyond words, he stares at the horrific sight. We're then introduced to Mr. Care's two nieces, Hanifa and Isti, the daughters of his older brother. Their parents had passed away, so the girls had moved to the city long ago. Ichi, aka Isti, excitedly tells Hanifa that she's been awarded a scholarship and is headed to a prestigious college. Hanifa is genuinely thrilled for her. All she ever wanted was for her younger sister to succeed. Unlike Mr. Care, who apparently wanted to be the final boss in an exorcism video game. Just then, the sisters receive a phone call. Hanifa answers. It's their maid, urgently asking them to return home. Hearing the tension in her voice, they both decide to leave the next morning. On the way, Hanifa reminisces about their childhood and their time living in that house. She recalls one eerie evening when they came home just before nightfall. Their mother scolded them, warning that ghosts roamed the area after dark, and that if they played outside too long, a spirit might snatch them. Which, let's be honest, sounds like something all dissy moms say to get kids to come home before dinner. That same evening, while Hanifa was playing, her mom was in the kitchen doing dishes when she suddenly felt a sinister presence. Her behavior changed. Her eyes turned pure white, and yep, she also vomited insects. Seriously, this family needs less drama and more pest control. Hanifa snaps out of her memories just as they reach their village, where the maid's husband picks them up. Hanifa asks how Uncle Kair is doing, but he stays silent. Classic horror movie red flag, #45. The dude driving you to the haunted house refuses to speak. By the time they reach the house, night has fallen. Stepping inside, Hanifa sees that nothing has changed. Same creepy vibe, same eerie silence. She goes to meet Uncle Kair. He doesn't respond at first, but just as she decides they should leave, he suddenly stands up. He throws himself at her feet, sobbing and begging for forgiveness. Hanifa, confused, asks what he's apologizing for, but before he can explain, he takes his last breath and dies right there. Guess death was faster than his explanation. Classic horror movie timing. Later, the sisters sit down with their maid, Auntie Omed, and ask where Uncle Kair's wife, Sabha, is. Omed explains that after the girls left, Sabha had walked out on Kair and vanished. Never returned since. Both sisters feel deeply unsettled by this. They head to their room for the night since the funeral is scheduled for the next day. While they're lying in bed, they talk about why their uncle may have wanted to end his life. That's when things get really weird. Uncle Kair's corpse suddenly sits up on its own. Meanwhile, while Isti's asleep, her bedroom door creaks open. She jolts awake, stunned and confused. Wondering how the door opened by itself, she gets up and walks out. We see Uncle Kair's ghost appear behind her, though she can only sense someone is there. When she turns around, there's no one in sight. Then she hears a strange sound from her uncle's room, like someone calling her inside. As she creeps closer, Hanifa suddenly emerges from the bathroom and asks her what she's doing up so late. Isti explains she heard something coming from Uncle's room. Hanifa brushes it off, saying it's probably just her imagination. After all, their uncle is dead, and no one could possibly be making noise in there. But Isti knows what she heard. Deep down, she's starting to suspect something's not right, which, let's be real, she should have realized back when Uncle Kair started playing National Geographic Bug Edition with his mouth. The next morning, Hanifa and Isti attend their uncle's funeral. As they're leaving, Isti suddenly clutches her head. She's got a massive headache and her nose starts bleeding. Everyone around looks shocked, like she just turned into a horror movie trailer. Maid Auntie immediately insists they head back inside to rest. She takes Isti in and puts her to sleep. Meanwhile, Hanifa steps outside for some air and finds one of her childhood toys, a chain her mother had made for her. She softly smiles, remembering those innocent times when the scariest thing in life was a broken crayon. She picks it up and tucks it into her bag. As she's about to pull back the window curtain, she spots something eerie, a woman in black, just standing outside the house and staring straight at it, like she's auditioning for the role of creepy neighbor hash one. But as soon as the woman sees Hanifa, she scurries away. And who is this stylish ghost ninja? You'll find out at the end of the movie, so buckle in, the plot's still warming up. Hanifa's mind flashes back to when her mother's health had begun to spiral. It had looked like something had possessed her. Her mom began acting bizarre, eyes blank like a broken Siri, and one day she hit her head hard on the floor and died. The only one taking care of her back then was their maid aunt, who honestly deserved a medal for not running away like the rest of us would have. Hanifa shudders at the memory. Her aunt comforts her and tells her to pray for Uncle Khair that his soul may rest in peace. Hanifa then asks her, why did Auntie Saba leave Uncle Khair? Maid Auntie Mir replies that she doesn't know much, but they used to fight a lot, real WWE tag team energy. One day when she took food to Saba's room, she found her in a horrifying state, worms crawling out of her body like it was a gross-out TikTok challenge. And then Uncle Khair pulled the ultimate get-out move, literally threw Maid Auntie out, and banned her from stepping foot in that room again. Talk about red flags, this guy made a whole parade. Hanifa is stunned. She says her dad had died in the same weird body horror fashion, and her mom too. That means, she says, there's definitely something cursed going on in our family. Congratulations, Hanifa. You finally connected the dots. Took long enough. Just then a woman comes to her and suggests they leave. She senses something is very wrong. But Hanifa, being bold and apparently horror movie proof, says, this is our house too. We're not going anywhere. Because why run away from a haunted death trap when you can make snacks and vibe through the screams? Later that night, as Hanifa is praying, her window suddenly flies open. She looks outside and sees, wait for it, her supposedly dead uncle, calling her name. She's horrified. When she tells Isti basically goes, nah, you trippin'. Total sibling support right there. Hanifa, not taking chances now, runs around locking all the doors and windows. But then, plot twist, she finds her childhood doll outside the house, the same one her mom had gifted her. How did that get there? She's freaked out. She heads inside and finds Isti looking like she's just seen a tax audit. Hanifa helps her to bed, tucks her in, and later, as they sleep, Isti's eyes snap open, her door creaks open like a cliché, and suddenly, Uncle Crawley makes his grand reappearance, crawling under the blanket, like a demon doing a sleepover prank. She gasps awake, heart racing, and tries to convince herself it was just a nightmare, until she notices the doors still open. The next day, Hanifa is walking through the house and finds some of her father's old belongings. She remembers that after he died, the police had given these to Maid Auntie. As she opens them, she finds a small wooden object inside, no idea what it is, but definitely not from IKEA. Back in her room, Isti starts feeling off again. Her head spins, her body feels strange, and then the grand finale, black goo begins pouring out of her nose like she's a possessed lava lamp. Seriously, at this point, if these girls don't leave the house, they deserve to be haunted just for making dumb life choices. That night, while Hanifa was cooking in the kitchen, Isti walked in and announced, today I'll be cooking. Hanifa, probably thrilled to finally dodge kitchen duty, handed her full control and left the kitchen like a boss. But when she got to the dining room, she saw Isti sitting there chill as ever. Hanifa blinked, confused. Wait a second, is Isti pulling off a time travel stunt? Or did she unlock the cheat code for teleportation? She quickly turned her head back toward the kitchen, and yep, there was another Isti, happily cooking away. Without wasting a second, Hanifa darted into the kitchen to confront this mysterious second Isti. The woman simply looked at her and smiled, and then poof. Just like a magician with commitment issues, she vanished into thin air. Hanifa freaked out, as any normal person would, and ran to the bathroom to splash her face. That's when she heard something strange, a squelchy noise coming from the bathtub. She peered inside, and there it was. Her uncle's ghost, rising from the tub like a cursed bubble bath gone wrong. Eyes locked on her. Honestly, Uncle needs to take his ghost business elsewhere. Haunting bathtubs is such a low-tier villain move. Terrified, she bolted out of the bathroom only to hear sounds coming from her uncle's old room. She leaned over and peeked through the keyhole. Inside, she saw a woman, sitting with her uncle. Hanifa didn't hesitate. She pushed the door open, which dramatically opened all by itself, of course, and rushed in to pull her sister out. As they packed up, Hanifa told Isti, "We need to get out of this place, like now." But as they ran, Isti suddenly froze in place. Hanifa turned back, and then she too was hit by a splitting headache. Black goo started oozing from her nose like some cursed Halloween prop, gone too realistic. She asked Isti, "What is going on?" Isti replied cryptically, "It's the 40 days, girl. What kind of horror advent calendar are we in?" Hearing that, Hanifa straight up passed out. Isti caught her and carried her back inside. The next morning, Hanifa woke up still shaken. Nothing made sense anymore. She told Isti, "There's some secret hidden in this house. We have to find out what it is. Only then will we understand why we can't leave." They started going through everything in the house like detectives on a budget. Eventually, they found a mysterious box. Inside was a red book. When Hanifa opened it, she discovered some form along with an old family photo. On the back of the photo, it was written that a curse would bring great harm to their family. She kept reading. Turns out, if someone wanted to achieve something desperately, they had to go to a graveyard and eat the dirt from someone's grave. Yes, you read that right. Grave dirt, bon appetit, I guess. Once they consumed it, the spirit from that grave would help them accomplish whatever they desired. But here's the catch. The curse lasted 40 days. During that time, the spirit would do whatever the person wanted, like an unholy Uber driver for your deepest wishes. Both sisters felt deeply unsettled. Who would do this to their family? Hanifa immediately called their maid aunt and begged her to come quickly, but the maid aunt couldn't hear her. And then a demonic voice whispered to her, "You cannot leave." Classic horror villain behavior always shows up to block plans when things start getting productive. The sisters panicked and tried to run, but after only a few steps, Hanifa suddenly collapsed, as if the house had Wi-Fi blockers for freedom. Before losing consciousness, she saw her Aunt Saba standing in front of her. When they both woke up, they found themselves back in the bedroom. It was night again and the house was completely empty. They began searching for Aunt Saba. Suddenly, Hanifa saw a shadow and began to follow it. But just as she got close, it vanished into thin air. Then she looked out the window and saw her uncle walking toward the forest outside. Totally creeped out, she ran to the bathroom and threw up because apparently ghosts are bad for digestion. Isti came in quickly to support her, wrapping an arm around her sister. At this point, these girls need an exorcist, a therapist, and a real estate agent in that order. That night, while both sisters were sleeping, Hanifa suddenly woke up. She glanced out the window and there he was, the spirit of her uncle, just standing there, staring at her like a creep. Then a woman probably possessed or sleep-talking, or both stood up and muttered, 40 days. And just as suddenly she dropped back to sleep like nothing happened. Hanifa sat there thoroughly confused, like, "Ma'am, if you're gonna drop spooky riddles, at least stay awake for the sequel." The next morning, Hanifa stepped outside the house and started yelling for help. But there was no one around. Not a soul could hear her voice. Meanwhile, their maid aunt, loyal, dramatic, and worried like any solid Desi auntie, was in full panic mode. She kept trying to call them, but the home number wasn't connecting. So finally, like every horror movie heroine with questionable timing, she said, "That's it. I'm going over there myself to check on the girls." Honestly, she deserved the MVP award just for not minding business like the rest of us would. Back in the haunted house, Hanifa and Isti, whom Hanifa occasionally called Rishta, for reasons only family drama can explain, were pacing and wondering what horrible karma their family had stacked up to get cursed this hard. Who did this to us? Why? They kept asking. Hanifa remembered something. Their mom and dad once wanted to sell the property, but Uncle Keshir and his wife Saba were totally against it. So maybe Just maybe. Uncle did some graveyard-level black magic to sabotage them, which, if true, is the most petty don't sell the house protest in real estate history. Hanifa, now boiling with rage, screamed into the void at her uncle's spirit. She said, "Take me if you want, but leave my sister out of this." But the spirit just stared at her blank, silent, probably thinking, "Sis, I've already done the paperwork. There's no refund policy now." Both sisters broke down crying. Just then, Hanifa noticed something weird under Uncle Kair's bed. She got on her knees, lifted the bed, and saw raw soil underneath. They were both stunned. Without wasting time, Hanifa grabbed a hoe, the gardening tool, not that kind, and started digging. And there it was, a necklace buried along with a dead body. She leaned in closer to the necklace, and boom, it was Auntie Saba's, which meant the corpse was Auntie Saba's. Plot twist unlocked. Aunt Saba didn't leave, she was left, permanently shocked to her core. Hanifa staggered back when she suddenly heard a sound coming from the kitchen. She rushed over and to her surprise saw the maid auntie calmly chopping vegetables. Hanifa, trying to keep it together, told her everything about the red book, the curse, the grave dirt buffet, but maid auntie looked at her and said, "You can't leave this house." Then she turned around and her eyes were snow white. She began chopping her own finger right along with the vegetables, because apparently this week's special was finger fries with a side of trauma. Terrified, the sisters ran out of the kitchen, but right then the real maid auntie appeared. She explained she had come because she was worried and couldn't reach them. Both sisters ran up and hugged her like they were clinging to the last shred of normalcy left. Hanifa then showed her the belongings their father had left behind, given to them by a policeman after his death. Auntie looked through the items and found a hidden letter. It turned out to be some kind of mantra, a spiritual chant. It said, "Darkness can only destroy darkness," which, let's be honest, sounded more like an edgy metal band lyric than a rescue plan, the maid auntie explained. "Your father must have gone to a shaman. Maybe he got this mantra to fight some evil power." Hanifa then told her about the spirit of their uncle, who had eaten the dirt from a grave and was haunting them. But the real maid auntie interrupted her and said, "No, your uncle was a good man. He was the one who sent both of you away to protect you. That meant this curse wasn't his doing. It was someone else, so the real villain's still out there, probably sipping grave tea and laughing in Latin." After that, Honey went into the kitchen and started cooking something, because clearly, a haunted house is the best place to whip up a casual snack. Girl, this isn't MasterChef, Ghost Edition. Meanwhile, her aunt was in the bedroom with Isti. That's when Isti started acting real weird and suddenly attacked the poor aunt. When Honey rushed over, she found her aunt unconscious. But instead of calling for help like a normal person, she immediately started searching for Isti, because apparently chasing down unhinged people in a horror movie is a personality trait. That's when she saw the ghost of her uncle, Luis. He told her to get out of there. Classic horror ghost advice: always too little, too late. Suddenly, Honey spotted the spirit of her Aunt Saba, who spilled the tea. She had placed a curse because she didn't want her parents to sell the family property. And now that everyone had returned after all these years, she planned to kill them too. Her spirit started haunting Honey aggressively, showing up everywhere and freaking her out. Honey entered a room and saw her sister literally levitating in midair, because floating around dramatically is ghost rule #1. Then Saba's spirit appeared in front of Hanif and let out a scream so loud that Hanif straight up collapsed and passed out, like a Victorian damsel, but with less grace and more ghost trauma. While unconscious, Hanif had a disturbing vision. In it, Saba explained that her father once caught her eating dirt from a grave. Girl, were the snacks that bad? Graveyard gourmet? So her father went to a place called Saman to have a special tool made to destroy her. But before he could even use it, she ambushed him, intercepted the family on the way home, and killed them. When Hanif woke up, she was horrified by what she saw. Her aunt arrived and finally told her everything, handing her the wooden tool that could kill Saba's spirit. Right on cue, Saba's ghost dragged the aunt away and knocked her out. Then she started crawling along the wall like she was auditioning for a Spider-Man reboot. But just as she was about to attack Hanif, Hanif jabbed the wooden stake into her stomach. Saba's spirit screamed, burst into flames, and turned to ash, which ironically is the closest she's ever come to being warm and friendly. Thanks to that, both Hanif and the maid aunt survived. The next day, we see Hanif and her sister getting ready to leave the haunted house for good. But when they opened the door, they were greeted by the woman in black, the same one Hanif had seen outside the window earlier. This mysterious lady announced that she had come to retrieve her Lal Kitab, the Red Book, and informed them that they wouldn't be allowed to leave for another 40 days. Because apparently haunted house leases now come with ghostly stayover clauses. Then just like that, she vanished into thin air. The sisters, now freaked beyond belief, tried to escape, but that's when they heard Sabah's voice calling out from the room. As they attempted to run, the door slammed shut, and outside the house they found the dead bodies of the maid aunt and her husband. That lady in black had killed them both. With that chilling discovery, the movie ends.